Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clockwork Gamedev show. I'm Keith Burgun. Today we are going to do a show all about actor removal. Make this nice and big so everyone can see. Yeah, so that's going to be the topic for today. Let's go to the schedule here. So today is August 10th. Today we're doing a show on actor removal. This will be an episode that we upload to YouTube and everything. If people have questions, comments, obviously leave them wherever. And yeah, I will respond to them as best I can. So yeah, I did a podcast episode, actually, number 70, Clockwork Game Design Podcast. I talk a little bit about actor removal. It's been a while since I've reviewed that episode, but this would be something that you could also check out. I'll put that in the show notes on the YouTube upload. But yeah, so let's talk about what is actor removal and what is not actor removal, and why I'm critical of actor removal as a design sort of like pattern, I guess. So let's see. Let's just get right into it. What is actor removal? Now, I use the term actor removal. You could use a bunch of different terms. In the chat, Richie said. So we have some questions in the chat here. Does it mean any simplification of state? Let's copy in some of these questions here that I got from the Discord. Here's one from Richie. What else we got? A term larger than actor removal extends beyond actors. Absolutely. Yeah. Bigger topic than just actor removal, but that actor removal. These are chats from the KB Games Discord, which you are welcome to join anytime and come and talk about games design. Yes. So okay, actor removal is indeed a small subset of a larger issue. First, let's talk about what is an actor. So actor removal in general is responding to, I guess before we even do that, let's just say, what is the top line thing? So if anyone comes here and they want to just see what's going on, they have some sense of what I'm talking about. Actor removal is a shorthand expression that I use to refer to a popular design pattern in video games. Well, let's just say in game design, both in digital games, well, outside particularly in digital games, but also in many tabletop games. In short, it is a rule set pattern where, power, wherein victory is pursued by removing actors from play, i.e. war games, FPS, RTS, etc. I am skeptical of this design pattern. I guess that's sort of my starting place. Yeah, that's sort of my starting place. So what is an actor? And this is where we'll start to kind of get into some of the ideas about, like, because this is actually pointing, if we want to get more like technical with it, this is actually pointing to a larger design issue. That's not just related to actors or games that have actors per se. Actor is a shorthand. I guess shorthand's one word. Expression for an in-game character or avatar. It's a little bit hard to define exactly what an actor is. If anyone wants to try to help me in the chat, let me know. But it's an in-game character or avatar that almost always has hit points and deals damage to other actors of some sort, to other actors. Maybe that shouldn't be part of the definition of actor. Let's just leave it at this, maybe, for now, because we're going to talk about the other stuff in the actor removal pattern. To me, an actor is basically something making decisions that is unknowable, even if predictable to some extent. All RNG, one actor in that regard. Yeah, so that's one way you could use the word actor. But then it's like drawing a card from a deck is an actor? I don't know. Maybe. Let's say this. Most often, a shorthand expression for usually one that moves around the game space and perform has some stats of some kind and can perform actions, right? And because this is actually pretty important, because the kernel of my problem with actor removal is that as a premise is that you have these large packets, these big like chunks of information. Let's get more technical. More technically speaking. Hey Dark, how's it going? Let me finish reading the chat. Thematically, while NPCs are actors, I don't consider them as actors the same way. I don't consider an item an actor. Well, NPCs depends on the game, right? But it depends on what you mean by that. I mean, certainly, if you're playing StarCraft against a computer, the enemy, units are technically non-player characters. I don't know. It's a little bit. All of these terms can get really messy, so it's important to like not get too hung up on the terms themselves and like try to focus on the concepts if we can. This is a good question by Zebra. Is actor basically just the idea of killing dudes? I'm gonna put that here because that's actually a good question. That's a good starting place for understanding this concept. Like that broadly, yes. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna just give you a yes or no, yes, that is what it's talking about, just killing dudes. Actor equals units. Yes, units is a great synonym. Often referred to as units in many games. But it could also be something that's not a unit. For example, your character in Overwatch or your character in, I don't know, The Witcher or something. Like, taking pieces in chess, checker, absolutely. And I would say that the pieces in chess and checkers are like units. Yeah, so those are good examples of actor removal, yes. Let's say examples of actors. Oops. Well, yeah, chess pieces. StarCraft units. Dota-like characters. Overwatch characters. Let's just say League of Legends. Just because I'm using specific names for things. D&D characters. Those are just some examples. Taking towers in Dota-likes is a more interesting question. So let's do like clear examples. Like less clear examples of actors. With what, like towers in League of Legends? I mean, I would probably say yeah, actually. So maybe that's not less clear. But yeah, I think that is. I think that's just because it's stationary doesn't mean it's not an actor. Characters, objectives, towers. We'll say that too, I guess. Towers are not actors. Well, I mean, we can define actors in either way. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you can define actor as something that has to be able to take actions, but I mean, towers do act on people. They attack people, right? That is an act. When they shoot a laser at somebody, that's an act for sure. Brick says, I guess this is why I'm not sure that actor removal is the best term. So the reason that I'm specifically using actor removal, like almost for like a semi-political reason, not a political reason exactly in the like, you know, uppercase P political, but like, I'm trying to best interact with the landscape that exists, right? And the landscape that exists in video games is a lot of this. Killing dudes, right? Like, killing dudes is the starting point for so much video game design and so much, what's it called? Even tabletop design. And so by focusing this theory on actor removal, because I think that what you're talking about is you're saying context simplification, that kind of thing. That's more technically correct. But yes, we're going to get into why I'm skeptical of this, I promise. But what Bricks is saying is we should use something like context simplification. That is more technically correct, but it also sort of like it's less like mimetically sticky, and it less interacts with the terrain as it is. So this is a response. This is like a direct reaction and a pushback against a certain model. Like, I actually want shit to change. You know, like, the reason for the theory is because I want people to make games differently. And so yes, what you're saying, and we'll write that down, actually, context simplification. Let's write this down. Yeah. And also this is credited to Zebrua. Zebrua asks, wouldn't it be a better starting point to briefly talk about why you're skeptical? Yeah, we will do that. Whizbane says, seems like actor removal equals reducing other players' agency. It does have that effect. But for example, a League of Legends objective, I mean, let's put that aside for now. An actor, more technically speaking, an actor is a semi-permanent packet of information, right? Or game state. So like an actor usually has like, I don't know, like ammo or health or like armor or, you know, certain like, I don't know, Pokemon type or something. Like, it has all kinds of different data inside of it. Is destroying a creature in MTG actor removal? Yes. Destroying a land, discarding a card. Yeah, that's more like loot, like destroying a resource. A creature in MTG would be more like actor removal, I would say, definitely. Than destroying land, because destroying land is like, it's like a -1 to an integer, whereas the actors are like a packet of information. So one mineral in StarCraft is definitely not an actor, right? Whereas a Marine is. Does that make sense? Or let's say an SCV. So some of it has to do with the complexity level, and that's why it's a little bit blurry. And that's why when Ryan asked about like MTG and whether lands and magic, you know, the distinction there is a little bit less clear than it is with a mineral in StarCraft versus an SCV, or a mineral versus a you know, a what's it called, like a Marine. But yeah, but there's still that dynamic there. Lands have a state tapped. Yeah, they do, exactly. And that's why I say it's like a little bit blurry. All this is going to be a little bit blurry. And that's why it's hard. What if there was a tech in StarCraft that allowed you to do nuke large amounts of resources on the map? I mean, there is, right? There's like nukes. Oh, you mean like they would actually destroy the minerals themselves? By the way, when I say here, not mineral patches. I'm gonna make a comment. Like literally one mineral up on the top part of the screen, where it saves, you know, like you're in your bank. So yeah. Dark made a really good point earlier about granularity and the lines between units and resources. Yeah, it's blurry. So let's just, you know, work with that. Actor equals a unit whose presence increased the game state's complexity. Yeah, I mean, although the problem is, Carbach, welcome, by the way. The problem with unit is that it's like, unit's kind of like a synonym for actor. But yes, the presence increases the game state's complexity. I mean, honestly, though, that's also true for one mineral, right? That's true for anything in the game increases its complexity. So I actually don't know that that's necessarily a great definition. AoE 2 has woodline destruction. Yeah, Warcraft 3 and Warcraft, actually all the Warcrafts have that as well. One of the updates for the next series was tech that lets all mangonels remove trees. Go mangonels. Okay, so let's see. Catapults. Catapults. So yeah, here's some examples of actors. So let's talk about actor removal real quick, and let's get into why it's bad. Is actor the idea of just basically killing dudes? Yes. This is a good place to start understanding this concept. So removal is, it's pretty simple. Actor removal refers to the pattern of let's see, the design pattern, a design pattern that is highly reliant on removing actors from play. Let's even add like entirely removing, like, or completely removing actors from play. So like, you know, StarCraft, you know, most StarCraft, like all the games we just listed, I mean, are so, they're all about that, like fundamental actor removal games, you could say, are fundamentally about, or are, let's say it this way, in actor removal games, you pursue the objective largely by removing actors from play. Right. In this way, so okay, let's get into the problem. Why is it a problem? Catching up on chat. A different integer doesn't increase complexity. Having 11 mineral instead of 10, whereas having 11 marines is more complex than having 10. I'm not sure about that. I mean, it's certainly more of a complexity increase. But I think the more minerals you have, the more possibility space opens up in terms of like, oh, now I can buy 2 things. I can buy 3 things. What order should I buy them in? Should I save my minerals and try to buy, you know, like, there's, maybe not the save thing, but like, in general, it is a little bit more complex. But yeah, your point is taken. Carbach having enough minerals for one structure is different than having enough minerals for different structures. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. You already have an issue in saying those games are entirely about actor removal. Entirely. I think I said largely, but yeah. Is it still actor removal if there's an equilibrium between new actors being created and old ones being destroyed? We'll talk about that too. I'm gonna add that in there because that's the fundamental, that's the belief, right? The reason people keep making games like this is because they're like, yeah, well, you're removing actors from play, but you're also adding actors back in all the time. So it's all good. And there does, you know, you do get an equilibrium there. So I do want to talk about that. Okay. So why is it a problem? If you remember, I made that video, a 3-minute game design when I was thinking of rebooting the 3-minute game design series, and I made one about meaning, and I think that was one of my most important videos, because I think that's one of the most important things about games and game design, strategy game design, is the idea of, by taking actions with game components or rules, we are imbuing all these things with meaning, right? So like when you place a stone in Go, it has all this meaning associated with it because of the context, and you know, like because of you and your understanding of the system. Like, why is that piece there? You know, it's like, on one hand you can just say, well, because you put it there, but if you go a little further, it's like, well, but why did you put it there? And there's then all this stuff that sort of informs why you put that there. And that's also why the input horizon, the input randomness, you know, info horizon is so important, because it allows players to contextualize and make decisions that are imbued with meaning. And so what you do, what happens in a game is, you're sort of like building this lattice of meaning. And the problem with actor removal, and I'll try to write this down in a way that's coherent, but the problem with actor removal is, you imagine this like ladder of meaning being built, and actor removal actually just like deletes big chunks of that. It sort of like severs a lot of data. So like, I just want to write down this one quick thought before I go into the real whys of the problem. Like, the end state of an actor removal based game is a situation, is a like no complexity situation. For example, I'm in a room in Doom full of monsters. As I kill more and more of them, the situation becomes less and less complex. Eventually, I am in an empty room. And up until I get to that point with the empty room, there's also like, you know, or like, let's say like eventually I am in a room with just like 2 imps. Then I'm in a room with just 1 imp. Then I'm in an empty room. You see what I'm saying? Let's catch up on chat. And then we'll get into the real thing here. This is what's happening next. But I want to stay up on the chat. Let's see. Like saying that American Revolution is about tea. Interesting. Maybe you have a different perspective, but to me, the biggest issue with actor removal, context simplification, is that as the game progresses, it tends to bring the game to a more simple state. Yes, that's kind of what I was saying here. Where understanding of the systems is far less important. Right. Yeah. I mean, you're rewarded with a system that, you know, this room, you know, how do I put this? Like, the room doesn't have any structure, meaningful structures that I've built. I have built no structures of meaning here. So yeah, so it's like what Bricks Parts was saying. Dara Liel says, Bricks, but games also need to reach a point of conclusion, having their own momentum. Yes, that's true. That is very true and very important. And my feeling is that actor removal is like our first attempt at pursuing that. Like it's like the first most obvious thing that you would think to do to pursue that. And it does like kind of achieve that, you know, sloppily, but it does sort of achieve that. But that is important. So we'll talk about that after we go in, like there'll be like a going forward kind of section. Put that there. Okay. This gets more into feedback loops, IMO. Yeah, I agree. That's more of a big design question problem. Darrell, having stone removal in Go is also connected to meaning, why you placed it and how it was removed. You can see on an endgame board where a bunch of stones got removed. That's true. That's true. I think Go is a little bit more. Go is so like fundamentally structured in that way. It's like so. It's so like a lattice work that I mean, there are some situations where it's like how you're saying. In Go, like Go is not a game where I would say the main problem with Go is that it has actor removal. I just used it as an example of, but yeah, and I should also say that, like, you know, this is game design theory. This is not a hard rule. It is, you know, that you can make great games that have actor removal. Let's see. Massive Bacon says, Keith, did you follow the discourse after the Wholesome Direct? I don't know what Wholesome Direct is. Hello, welcome, Bacon. Massive Bacon. I don't know about Wholesome Direct. I don't even know what that is. Sounds like the Doom Room has its own momentum. Yeah, so momentum is one thing, and that's not my complaint about actor removal. Although I will say that in terms of momentum, I mean, there can be those, like, a lot of times in actor removal based games, there's that like cleanup situation. In fact, in my Doom example, you know, like, yeah, sure, eventually we get to empty room, but before then we're in this like kind of shitty imbalanced room where there's just like one or two imps and I have to chase them down. You know, StarCraft, sometimes you have to chase, someone's like floating a, what was the building for the Terrans that would give you the upgrades? Shoot, I can't remember. Engineering Bay. Someone's like floating an engineering bay out in the middle of nowhere to like fly away. Okay, let's see. Not sure if actor removal is a design issue as much as it's just a philosophical part of a lot of games. Does it need to be solved? Well, you could say anything is just a philosophical part of a game, right? I mean, that argument can be used to justify literally anything that's in a game. So I mean, yeah, like if I think maybe what you're saying is like you don't see, I mean, like if we see any utility in the idea of like talking critically about games and figuring out, you know, ways we can do things better in the future, then I think that that defense doesn't really maybe hold up. I think you're looking at specific game states as opposed to game state transitions. Maybe you can talk more about that. I don't know what that means. Oh, the Wholesome Direct thing, there was a lot of backlash about soft games and they can still be violent, often through actor removal. Oh, interesting. I will pull up this thread. Take a look at that. Wholesome Direct. Oh yeah, purple people and call it diversity, yeah. Oh hey, my podcast. Trade environmental changes, non-violent city builder. Yeah. So I think, yeah, there's some really good thoughts here. I totally agree with this general take of like, you know, this is not, right now I'm not making a critique about violence particularly, you know. Right now this is a purely mechanical critique about rule sets and about the amount of information flow and how you're building meaning through these actors and where you're positioning them and how, you know, they're, and then suddenly this actor that has all this information and all this meaning imbued in it is just zipped out of existence. And my point is that we don't appreciate what a big deal that is. Games of these types are largely about actors, their stats, their position, etc. Actor removal is an extreme action, whereby, wherein a massive amount of game state is simply erased. Actor removal is similar to a state reset. I'll say it's like a partial state reset. But the big problem with it is not that it exists. The big problem with it is that people don't appreciate what a huge deal it is to remove an actor from play. The problem, actor removal is not fundamentally a bad thing. The problem is that designers don't appreciate how significant it is to remove an actor from play, let alone 5, 10, 20 actors. So it's a matter of like our basic design pattern. Our basic design pattern is based on, like a state of total war. A thematic, everyone wants to kill everyone else, and it's the last man standing. Let's just say last man standing. Last man standing. Last man / side standing. Total destruction of everything on the other side. And that's the problem, is that like this war theme, which has been useful to us in a lot of ways in strategy game design, also has downsides. And one of the downsides is this complete eradication of state. Yes, more. So let's talk about alternatives. I'm gonna catch up on the chat in a second, but let's just make some bullet points. Instead of removing an actor, you could change what an actor is / does. Possession. Possession is a little bit like actor removal, to be fair. So maybe we shouldn't use possession, but just giving it different powers, changing it from an attacking unit to a support unit, etc. Instead of destroying a structure, you could capture it. What else? Also, removed actors could leave something meaningful behind. Terrain effects, structures, etc. So this is something that we tried to do in Oro, actually. This one here. Because towards the end of Oro development, I sort of started realizing some of this stuff about actor removal. And so we made... And it was, it was sort of grafted on towards the end, but I think it's worked pretty well. All right. It was, at least it was a good attempt, which was that, so you're knocking monsters into the water in Oro, and when you knock a monster into the water, that monster becomes a tile. So that's a little bit less actor removal than it would be without that. Because now, you know, I mean, it's still mostly actor removal, but it's a little bit less. And that's kind of that's what my theory is asking people to do, is lean a little bit away from actor removal, a little bit more in the direction of, some of these alternatives. We can think of some more examples. Sports provide a lot of good alternatives to actor removal. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is that it's such a dominant, like a way of thinking about game design, particularly in strategy games, that there is utility in simply trying something else. Let's see. Catching up. Carbach. In traditional card games, the goal is to empty your hand, i.e. remove your own actors. So I'm not sure if I would call a card in your hand an actor. Is removing your own actors okay? No, I think removing... But actually, no, you know what? I think the principle still works there, Carbach. Of... if you like empty your hand, I mean, the cards in your hand are context, right? And so let's get to this context simplification. Now, obviously, context simplification, actually, let's talk about this. Because this is the more like analytical, correct version of this concept. For any given game, there is some amount of context where the game works best. Let's say some range of amount of context where the game works best. So for example, Doom works best when there's like a few monsters around, right? Like Doom is at its best when you're fighting more than one monster, right? Like probably more than 2 monsters. Probably the range for Doom monsters is between like, I want to say like 3 or 4 and 8 or 9, right? Somewhere in that range is a good amount of context for Doom. And the problem with actor removal is that it's incentivizing strategically the player to reduce the amount of context. It actually reminds me a little bit of scouting in games. So let me give this as an example. For any given game, there is some amount of information that you want players to have about the game state. Some information should be hidden from players. Some information should be visible to players, right? And that's like the information horizon. It is bad to strategically incentivize players to maximize their information, their visible information, i.e. scouting, etc. Right? Because there's a range where the game works best. Like, let's say the game works best when you can see 40% of the map, something like that. And so if you're like letting players like put all these wards everywhere or whatever, let's say wards also, or like we can say like limitless wards, then you're allowing the player to make the game worse. You're allowing the player to destroy, like damage the game. And similarly, for any given game, there's some amount of amount of context where the game works best, right? So in Doom, you want there to be like 3 to 8 monsters or whatever. Let me catch up on chat. I'm really falling behind here. Let me write this down real quick. yet the game incentivizes you to reduce that context or down to, you know, 2, 1, and eventually 0 monsters around. Make sense? Now, it'd be one thing if, like, maybe, I guess you could say, like, if the game just instantly ends the second there's 0 monsters, but, like, even the 1 monster state sucks. It sucks to fight 1 imp in Doom. Right? Okay, let's catch up on chat here. What up, Brick Road? This all seems right to me. Yay, thank you. Certainly an ebb and flow. You want to strike with gameplay though, and you don't want action/stress to be cranked up at all times. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So an ebb and flow kind of thing. But that ebb and flow might maybe be, you know, I mean, Doom maybe is not the best example, because it's not really a strategy game. I like it because it's very visual in this regard in talking about this concept, but you know, in trying to think of what would be a good example. Let me just keep on the chat here. But yeah, that's a good point about the range, and I think that, like, I mean, you could get that ebb and flow between this range, you know. If I was to make a Doom match-based game, high fire starter, I'd make the game keep spawning monsters so the player's overwhelmed if not removing monsters well. Yeah, and so that talks about the sort of the whole monsters being created and destroyed, and you get the equilibrium there. That works. Like, my claim here is not that these games don't work. Obviously they work, right? My claim is, like, okay, next year we're gonna make other games that don't exist right now, right? What are those going to be like? And what directions should we, like, maybe lean in, right? Yeah, I mean, one alternative is literally just, it's harder to remove actors from play. Which I think Monster Train is maybe a good example of that. I'm not sure. And it maintains some context, even if, yeah. Also, that's one. No, actually, Monster Train's not the best example of that, but even if actors are getting removed, there's so much other context that doesn't get removed, that the destruction of the actors isn't too such a big deal, right? So, like, you could have, like, a lot of other stuff going on in a system where you have all these, like, structures and things, so that when the actors are removed, it's not this, like, flattening of the game space. Removing actors. Now, so another thing that I would say, though, is we had another episode about structure. I would recommend going back and watching that one if you haven't seen it. I think it's up on YouTube. This issue is also related to the issue of games lacking structure. If a game has sufficient structure, i.e., systemic rules, permanent, you know, modifications to the game space, etc., then actor removal becomes less and less of a problem. Does that make sense? With Monster Train, I mean that it presents you with a consistent challenge each round. Yeah, 4 to 9 monsters, right, yeah. And I mean, you do eventually remove them, but I think it always is, like, sort of refilling them. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say that, though, even in the case of Monster Train and Slay the Spire even more so, you know, there is still this problem of these monsters come into play and they make things complicated, but then eventually you kill them. And And what it does is it creates these like little short loops. You know, where it's like the game gets like complicated and stuff, and then it kind of like resets once you kill them. In many actor removal based games, when you kill all the monsters, what was the expression? Kill all the dudes. There's a something like a state reset effect. Right? So like, and it's just a waste. It's like, it's not an efficient engine in some way. You're building this stuff and then you just like smush it back down. Build it up a little bit, smush it back down to nothing. And it reminds me of like fighting games where, you know, you have this like state reset situation. I think about Smash Brothers. And I've had so many matches of Smash Brothers. We do like 4 stock or whatever, right? And I'm somewhat evenly matched with my opponent. We fight and we fight and we fight and we fight and we fight. We do all this stuff happens, blah, 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 blah. All this different things are happening. And then, you know, I get my opponent down to 2 stocks and I have 1 stock and 0 damage and I kill him. And now we're both at 1 stock and 0 damage. And it's like, we could have just started the match here. You know what I mean? Like, there's no state. Other than like maybe minor, like, oh, I'm over here a little bit, whereas if I spawned, I would be here. Like, there's basically no state that's carried over from that entire match. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at here with the actor removal stuff. What else? I'm just trying to catch up on chat here. A lot of people noticed the ghosting issue. I don't know about this stealth stuff. Rick Road says, yeah, something like our game could need more structure, and sometimes we're throwing out context we already had that makes no sense. Yeah, and so, yeah, so to apply this to your own designs is not a, like, actor removal is always bad, never have actor removal. I'm making a game right now with Brick Road that has actor removal. In fact, actor removal is quite fundamental to it. But it's rather to think about, like, you know, the dangers of actor removal, be aware of them, and be sure that so I could talk about some ways in which my game, Gem Wizards Tactics, pulls back from some of the worst aspects of actor removal and some of the worst aspects of, you know, traditional war games. In Advance Wars, let's talk about Advance Wars. In Advance Wars, it's very much like you destroy the enemy units and then there's just like nothing there, and you know, it's the situation becomes less interesting. And then you just have to like go and clean up a couple, like there's one last troop up there and I have to go capture those things or whatever. I think it's, yeah, and so that's a good example. So taking Advance Wars and then looking at Gem Wizards Tactics, so what are some ways, let's talk about that. So some examples, Advance Wars to Gem Wizards Tactics. So, let's see. A lot more stuff you can build on the map. Build or leave on the map. It's a lot harder to kill units, to remove actors. Overall, average damage is like 10 to 40% per attack. And units can all heal, like self-heal. So we're trying to like make it a little bit resistant to just like, boom, your unit disappeared, you know? Those are 2 really big ones right there. We can think more about that, but that's just a couple of examples. Couldn't have started the match at 1 stock. The stocks incorporate a best of 3 or whatever structure. Do you understand what I meant, Daraliel? Like, I don't know if you're just like being contrarian or like doing a technicality thing, but in terms of the state, the actual information in the game that's happening at that moment in Smash Brothers, when you start at a 4 stock and you get down to 1 stock, right? It is quite like a best of 3. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, is that a best of 3, if we're going to play a best of 3 in a game, between each of those, there's a total state reset, right? So we do for game 1, and then we reset the game. We do game 2, we reset the game. And so you're actually agreeing with me when you say that it simulates a best of 3. Yeah. Daniel Garcia made a good point above. Who's Daniel Garcia? I don't see anyone named Daniel Garcia in the chat. Weird. In Pikmin, every monster you kill leaves a corpse that can be turned into food. Yeah, that's great. You know, and I want to think about this more with Gem Wizard's Tactics too. Like, I'm doing this process myself. More stuff to think about. So, like, you know, maybe the enemies could leave. I actually don't see Daniel Garcia 14. I'm wondering if that's like. Is this person like banned or something? Do you want to paste their? Oh, there you are. Now you appeared. But that's the first. Oh, here's your chat. Okay, I found it. Never mind. I think this shows the difficulty of designing non-score based win conditions. As most sports and Euro games don't have actor removal, their trade-off is that it can be anticlimactic or considered point salads. How do you reconcile this with your critique of scores? Okay, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, to me, actor removal is kind of like scores. Well, let's paste this in here. You know, like I think that you can back away from actor removal and also not have scores at all. I mean, you know, like you can imagine a game like League of Legends that backs away from its actor removal stuff a little bit. I've thought about some designs. I think I've posted some designs in the Discord over the years for, you know, Dota-like kind of games that are either have no actor removal at all or that massively pull back on that, and they have a very binary non-score based win condition, which is just destroying the Nexus. You know, I guess you could sort of say, I mean, that stuff gets blurry, you know, because like there's always resources that lead to, even if you have a totally binary win condition, there's always resources that lead to that. And so you could kind of say those are points, but not really. Like so for destroying a Nexus in League of Legends, you could kind of say that, like, so what's the difference between like, well, you know, you destroyed enough towers where you can do that, right? But the difference is that towers do stuff. Towers are like, the fact that there isn't a tower there, your like second tier tower or whatever, that means a lot for the game state. That's not just a number. It's not just a victory point that just got thrown into some, you know, pile. Welcome, Daniel Garcia. Thanks for the good comment. But yeah, I actually don't think there's no relationship here. I don't think. Sports. So the relationship to me is that both sports and war games are both old. And they're both pre-design era, right? Like, and I think honestly, we're still kind of in the pre-design era. But like they, you know, those are some of the first things that you would think to do. Like, okay, I'm gonna make a game. How do you win this game? I don't know. You score a bunch of points, and then after a certain amount of time has passed, then whoever has more points wins, right? Or, oh no, let's not do that. Let's do a different thing. The other thing you would do is, okay, I have a bunch of units. You have a bunch of units. We both try to kill each other, and whoever's left standing wins. And there's a similarity there, actually, in that those are both like very non-structural victory conditions and ways of playing games. And so I think that we can have, you know, a lot of designer Euro games and stuff point at. Unfortunately, a lot of Euro games are score based, but like. I often bring up the example of Puzzle Strike as a good example. I think that Nexus in League of Legends is a good example of games which are not score-based. And yes, and actually, Puzzle Strike doesn't have actor removal, now that I think about it. Really, right? I mean, yeah, it doesn't. Puzzle Strike is a game that both does not have actor removal and doesn't have a score based win. So there's no connection here, in my opinion. I remember you dismissing Netrunner, but of all CCGs, the one with yes, more structure and less actor removal. Yes, absolutely. No, I mean, I actually recently went back and played some more Netrunner. It is absolutely, as you say, more structural, way more structural than like Magic or whatever. Less actor removal, absolutely, which I also really appreciate. I think it's a way better game than and in fact, and even the score aspect of it is, you know, it's kind of like it's when score of goals gets so small. So in Netrunner you need 7 points to win, but each card has usually about 2 victory points on it, that like victory point card that you would gain. So you really need to win like 3. You have to like hit 3 or 4 times, which is almost like it's not really like victory points anymore. It's kind of on that line. So my problems with Netrunner are just the specifics. You know, like it has all this like draw 3 cards, +1 this, +2 this, blah blah blah. It's very, in its structure, it's really good in its actual components and stuff, and then it's got the customizability. All my problems are not related to these issues with that game. They're all just like the actual components. They're very like Magic the Gathering-y. But yes, absolutely, it is more structural, and the goal is much better. It's not an actor removal based game, which I really appreciate. I mean, there's a little bit of it, but again, like it's a iterative process here. Let's see. Some chatting up some other things. Let's see. No more birds. I had a Dota-like idea where you can only interact with minions and can't attack enemy players at all. Yeah, that's totally legit. Like, we need to think about that. And this, one of the things that this is asking people to do is, as I said here, try something else. Maybe it's not about killing all the other guys, you know? And you could come up with something really cool, you know? Or you could come up with something that doesn't work at all. But that's also interesting. That's also useful. Like, we need to have like design failures. We're not having enough design failures, I think. Because we're not trying things enough. And that goes less for indies. Like, people in this channel are trying things. That's not talking about you guys. You guys actually are. I mean, like, sort of like more broadly. Try something else by itself would indeed be very crap game design theory. Yes, I agree. It's not really theory. And cost of failure is catastrophic. I mean, I guess you're talking about for like some big ass company, sure. But that's not my problem. You know, I am interested in making the cost of failure less catastrophic in certain ways and finding ways to fix that problem. But yeah, I mean, and well, that's what that is what Daryl Leal says is the cost of failure is catastrophic, indies and big companies both, and that is a good explanation for why we don't try things. But right now we're talking about game design theory, and we're talking about sort of like what would we want in games, and I think that's worth thinking about our values and like what we should value, and then when we get to, you know, rubber hits the road kind of moment, there's going to be different considerations, and you know, maybe you can't afford to make a, you know, and that is what it is. Let me catch up. Contemporary actor removal work when you kill an enemy, it returns in 2 or 4 turns. Yeah, I think that's a good alternative actually. Let's write that down. Temporary actor removal. Stunning. I mean, like, that's kind of like this a little bit. Change what it does, sort of, or that's related to that. So yeah, that's good. I mean, it still is kind of actor removal, especially if you think about, like, I'm thinking about something like Overwatch, and you have a bunch of people like trying to get on the cart to push the cart, and if you can like stun the other team for long enough to push the cart into the thing, you know, it's kind of similar to killing them. It's kind of similar to removing them. I mean, stunning them is removing them from play, but it's still a little bit better because at least, you know, that actor is still there. And Or we could say respawning in the same spot, maybe. Like, because then there is still that like spawn spot that's there, and that's informing how you play. So that's good. I'm not sure I'd want a severely limited complexity range for a game. The complexity range that's ideal is highly dynamic for a game. Well, but everyone understands that Doom sucks with one monster. There is a range, like, maybe you think the range is a little wider than I do, but you have a range. That's my point. Like, maybe if we were talking about Doom, or if we're talking about StarCraft, right? There's a food cap on StarCraft, right? StarCraft sucks. There's nothing really going on if there's just like 1 or 2 units. Right? If I have like 2 or 3 Marines and you have 2 or 3 Marines, the game's not really working. You need like, I don't know, let's say 10 units in StarCraft, right? And then up to, I don't know, 50 or 40 units or something like that, 30 units. The range is dynamic, and it can be dynamic, but I'm saying that there's an upper and lower limit, and that we should be, as designers, designing that limit in such a way that even if it's dynamic, it's always dynamic within a range that's good. It's never dynamic. Like, how about this? You want dynamic? How about we'll have StarCraft where there's no food cap. You can have 1,000 units, 10,000 Zerglings on screen. There you go. That's dynamic. No, so obviously the point is like there's some range at which the game is bad if you go outside of it. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. I think Daryl Liel is doing a bit of a thing, but hopefully people understand what I'm saying. For any given game, that range is going to be different, right? It's going to be like, you know, it's going to be a little bit subjective too, and there are going to be differences in opinions. But like, probably all of us could agree, 100,000 Zerglings in StarCraft is not really what we want, right? Like, and so there's going to be limits there, and that's all I'm saying. Is that and the problem with actor removal is that you go down lower. I think that even if you can say StarCraft is fairly exciting at 1 to 3 units, you know, maybe you don't want the game to be fairly exciting. Maybe you want it to be really good, you know? That range will be likely higher for higher skilled players. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean there's a dynamic there too of like complexity being sort of related to like difficulty and skill in a game. Yeah. The range is dynamic throughout the match. You don't start with 200 food, you start with like 10. Right, but StarCraft is designed in such a way that you can't get 10,000 units. That's my point. And for a good reason. Because the game wouldn't be good with 10,000 units. Like, you can't just use dynamicness to justify any number of things. That's really all I'm saying. It's not that crazy, I think, of a statement. And the thing with actor removal is it's a direction, it's pointing the level of complexity downwards, right? It's like your goal is to reduce the complexity of the system. And I actually think that like it would be better to make goals that aren't about messing with those dynamics that really should be like fundamental to the game. Shouldn't be messed with. StarCraft absolutely starts out too slow and samey. I mean, build orders. And part of that is because you don't have any freaking units, right? Like, imagine StarCraft where you started out with like 10 units or 15 units or some range. You know, let's say in StarCraft you always have, I don't know, these 10 units. It's kind of like it's so built around this actor removal that it's hard to imagine, but if you could somehow always have 10 units, there wouldn't be that early game time where the game sucks. It's at its worst right in the very beginning. Fighting games are a lot better about this in particular. Well, because fighting games are just one actor versus one actor, and once one dies, that's it, right? Wow, we're getting all kinds of spam bots all of a sudden. Got 2 of them. No more birds. Kill those spam bots. A change they made in Legacy of the Void was making it so that you start with 12 SCVs instead of 6. Huh. To kick things off faster, which is like, yeah, but I mean, that's really a band-aid solution, right? Because that's not actually solving the core problem. That's just speeding up, it's just compressing the problem time. Which is, you know, it's good, but yeah, it's good to think about like what are the core issues there. No more bots. All right, so let's see. Advance Wars. Yeah, reaching a point of conclusion. So I sort of spoke about this a little bit already, but the idea of like a timer, I think that people have come around by now. 2020, people have come around to the idea that like slapping a timer on a game to have it reach a point of conclusion, probably not the best way to go about it, right? Like after 20 minutes, whoever has more blah, 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 is the winner, right? Like, or whoever blah, 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 whatever the conditions, like we pretty much, we agree about that. And I think that the next place we need to go is, and I think we're sort of getting there. I see signs that people are moving in that way. Is that remove all the enemy actors is also a cheap way to push games towards a conclusion. And has a lot of problems. I do not think that there is any connection between games moving towards their conclusion and complexity going down. I think that's totally wrong. I don't agree with that. I think that the level of complexity can completely stay exactly the same pretty much the whole time, or even go up. In fact, a lot of good games, the complexity does go up over time until the very end. And still they can have that momentum thing. Puzzle Strike. Again, I hate to use Puzzle Strike so often as my example for things, but Puzzle Strike does become more complex as the game goes on. Players have more cards in their deck, and there's more gems going on, and there's more different market cards in play, and things like that. Ongoing chips and all this stuff, and, you know, maybe panic time, and just there's all kinds of stuff going on in Puzzle Strike. The complexity actually, it starts at a certain level that's like a little bit maybe too simple in my opinion, but then it just kind of goes up from there, and it absolutely moves towards its conclusion. So this idea, that's the last lesson of the day, this idea that there's any connection between games moving towards a conclusion and complexity going down is totally false, totally wrong. I see why people would think that. Complexity going down does, as you say, funnels options towards fewer options, but that's not like, and that does tend to end the game, because now it's like the situation's like getting simpler and simpler. Think about chess, the last few moves of chess. It's like, okay, well, there's only, you know, 5 things he could do right now. Like before there was like 15 or 20 or, you know, 500. And now there's like so many fewer things that you can do. And so, yeah, there is always going to be some kind of like funneling, I guess. But this is the worst way to funnel. I don't think Puzzle Strike still does that. I mean, there's always going to be like those points of the systemic complexity in Puzzle Strike does not go down. That's the difference. Yes, there are funnels. There are like situations where you're like, oh, I have to do this or I'm going to lose. You know, that's not what I'm talking about. As the game gets to conclusion, your decks get less efficient at removing gems, so you get less and less options. Yeah, but that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about general complexity of the state. I mean, all the stuff that's in your deck is still complexity. There was no There wasn't like a, it's not like the game comes down to just like, I have 2 cards and you have 2 cards, you know what I mean? I definitely have the opinion that games in general are better when the game state becomes more complex at the end, although of course the opposite is often the case. Yeah, I think that like, that's what I'm talking about. And because I think that it's more fruitful to have, if anything, the complexity go up over time. I also think that people should think about games where the complexity basically stays the same. I can't think of any examples of that because that's a very unpopular design aesthetic. But I'm sure that it exists. I don't know. I have to think about that. Maybe somebody in chat can think of a game where the complexity stays basically the same. Do you think a good example of your issue is how you can have 4 pieces each per player and 100 ways to get there? I'm not sure I follow that question. Most sports, the complexity stays the same. Yeah, fighting games. Yep. Not chess. Chess would not be an example. Oh, I see what you're saying. Do you think a good example of your issue is how you can have 4 pieces each per player and 100 ways to get there? Chess? Well, I think that chess, so a good illustration of what I'm talking about is chess in like the mid game and even in the early game. You've got all these pawns, you've got these like knights, you've got these bishops, and you have all these interactions that happen between all these units, right? They have all these different patterns and all this different stuff is going on. At a certain point in the game, you have 4 units left, one of which is a king. I have 4 units left, one of which is a king. And like maybe 2 of these are pawns, and this one's like a bishop, and this one's like I have, I don't know, 2 knights. And there's so much less that can happen now. There's so much less that anyone can do. It is a less interesting game now. And a lot of the state things that had happened in the past start kind of getting like overwritten and forgotten and stop mattering, which actually is less the case in Go. In Go, things are really pretty permanent. Another thing we could talk about actually when we're talking about chess versus Go, something that's kind of interesting is that movement, free actor movement, the ability to move actors sort of willy-nilly, for lack of a better term, has some relationship to the actor removal problem. Go stones are pretty darn permanent, meaning that a stone you place on turn 1 might, is likely to still be there, on the last turn of the game. Whereas, like, there's a transience in moving units even. Like in chess, I mean, a great example is in chess, you can move a piece forward, and then, like, the enemy does something, and you're like, I'm gonna undo that, and, like, move the piece back, right? And, like, that's that level of transience. It's like, it's almost like, I could have just as well have moved my other knight or whatever. Like, you lose a ton of tempo. Yeah, there's not nothing there. I agree. But hopefully also my point is coming through, about like that you can kind of at least partially undo things through movement. It's generally bad to move a piece twice. Of course, I agree. I'm not saying that that's strategically a good move or anything, but I am saying that, like, the fact that you can do that has ramifications on the game, and it might be harder to track, but like, like after you've had like a bunch of moves, like 20 moves or something, and you've moved this bishop all around many times, it's kind of like the state 15 moves ago is like tenuously connected to what's happening now. You know what I mean? Like, there's less and less. If anything, I'm just saying, like, Go is a little bit more permanent, right, than chess, because each piece you place down is basically going to stay there unless it's captured. which, you know, most pieces are not going to get captured. You could have a game where at any moment player can choose from hundreds of options and none of those decisions really matter, as opposed to a system with only a few possible choices, but the importance of those decisions is incredible. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of like Brick Road's action funneling question. I think it's a little bit distinct from what I'm talking about, but it is true that, like, there's some, if we talk about action funneling, there's some amount of game. Let's see the Brick Road article. See if I can find it. Oh, it's Brain Good Games. Here we go. Action funnels. System that takes a wide of possible and limits it to the subset of currently possible. You should check out Brick Road's blog if you haven't already. So something I was sort of looking for in this is like, yeah, so like here, for example, Wingspan, on your turn, you must first choose one of only 4 actions. So there's like a designed amount of interactions and amount of choices that players have, right? And so the problem with a game that's either expanding in complexity is that you can fuck with your action funnel economy, or if it's dwindling, you can also fuck with it and have an issue where you don't have enough choices anymore. I mean, that's something that I feel like we've all experienced in games, is that, like, at a certain point they're interesting, and then at a certain point they just, like, shrink up. And I mean, chess is like this, StarCraft is like this. Article pulled up, feels good, man. Impermanence allows for more footsies. I don't know what footsies really are. I mean, I think I have a sense for what they are, and I think that, like, maybe they're bad for strategy games. To the extent that they're actually pointing at anything. All right, so I'm about done here, but if there's any more thoughts, definitely do check out this podcast episode 70, if you haven't already. Check out Brick Road's article on action funneling. I'll put that in the YouTube notes also. And yeah, the general thing, just to kind of reiterate what I'm saying here, Keith should love footsies. Footies. I do love footies. I don't know what footies are, but I love them already. Footsies. Why should I love footsies? Okay, so yeah, actor removal. It's not bad. You can have actor removal, but be skeptical of it. Be aware of it. Be aware of what a big fucking deal it is to, like, just have, like, multiple actors removed from a game at once. It's the thing left in a fighting game when you take out the RPS. Yeah, I mean, I think I've said before, like, I'm not a big fighting game fan. But maybe you can you talk about footsies? How would footsies manifest in other kinds of strategy games? Like, to me, footsies in, like, League of Legends would be like someone, like, clicking really fast and moving their like champion up and down really quickly to, like, sort of, like, make you make a mistake, and then some stupid shit happens and, like, you walk into the tower or something, and now your team should have been winning, but now their team is winning because of some dumb human error thing. Like, that's not good. In Dota likes killing an enemy player reduces complexity short term because they're not here anymore to interact with you and the other players, so it's a net -1. But only temporary as they eventually respawn, but long term it doesn't affect the constant increase in complexity. Well, actually, another thing that actually, to be fair, another alternative, let's write alternative / ways to reduce the effect. Gaining resources for kills, like Warcraft 3 experience, as an example. And same with League of Legends Gold. It's about poking, trying to bait, looking for an engage opportunity, right? Footsies in League. See, like I feel like there could be a version of League of Legends that got rid of that stuff and instead built a lot more structure, a lot more like objective-like things people build on the map, things like that, and that could be really interesting. That would be something I hope would be explored in the future. Footsies in League is 2D instead of 1D, which makes it more interesting. Terrain, flag of war, all that. Yeah. So I mean, I mean, a lot of that's like it's sort of execution stuff, right? It's like, and I think that like, yeah. I mean, yeah, these we're still living in the world of like kill all the dudes games, you know. And if it's kill all the dudes game, then like I think you probably need some footsies and what are the like skill shots and things like that. In order to like sort of make it work. But I think that going forward in the future, probably less reliance on execution, things like footsies and mind games would probably be the way to go, because it really should be about more understanding the system and less about like kind of lucking out and getting a footsie to work, because ultimately footsies, if they work, there's a totally a very probabilistic thing there. It's like a very random thing. It's largely the other player, screwing up in some way. I'm playing AP Nasus. It's all about trying to position so I can hit the other laner with my E while also hitting the wave and not getting hit myself. Yeah. Right. I mean, to me, that's when that kind of stuff is when League of Legends is least at its strategy game-ist point. It is the most fighting gameiest part. And then like top lane. I complain about top lane all the time. The top lane to me is one of League's like most like weakest design points, because it's the least of a team game. It's the most like a fighting game. And then all of a sudden, once you have this like other game that's just like a new challenger is joining the match. Like you might as well have been playing top lane on a different server, and then it connects at a certain point. And yeah, so while you're up there, all you have is the footsies and the fighting game stuff, because there's not much team interaction. Yeah, whereas by contrast, jungle is good because it's interacting theoretically with everything. Support is good. Even mid is you're at least in the middle of the level, so you can go in and theoretically interact with other things. Sounds like a worse League version, if such a thing is possible. Well, no one try that then. Keep doing the same thing. Just do it. League is at its best when footsies are abound. Well, there you go. You can install it right now and get some footsies to your heart's content. But yes, for those of us who are interested in like what things might be like if they were ever to be different, this is one idea. And I hope that people got something out of this. And thank you for watching and listening. And I will be back next Monday with another topic. And I'll also be streaming randomly throughout the week. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace.